Most people open the Psalms searching for comfort, a verse for a difficult morning, a line to hold on to before the day begins or before sleep comes. But when you slow down and listen to the Psalms in their original Hebrew, you begin to notice layers that are easy to miss in translation. The poetry is filled with words carrying historical, cultural, and theological weight. Words that appear throughout Scripture in moments of judgment, deliverance, divine kingship, and the ultimate triumph of God. This does not mean the Psalms are secret codes waiting to be solved. The biblical writers were not hiding a puzzle beneath the text, but the language they chose often creates patterns and echoes that connect the Psalms to the larger story of Scripture, including themes later associated with the day of the Lord. Today we're going to explore 5 Hebrew words that reveal a deeper meaning in the Psalms. Words that point to God's judgment, His protection of His people, the shaking of the earth, and His final victory as King. By the end, you may see these familiar passages in a completely new way. The first word is Selah. It appears more than 70 times throughout the Psalms, usually at key moments where the flow of the poem pauses or shifts. Its exact meaning remains uncertain. Many scholars believe Selah was a musical or worship instruction, possibly a pause, an instrumental break, or a signal for the musicians and singers to lift their voices. Some also connect it to the Hebrew root Selah, which carries the idea of lifting up or raising a path. While no one can say with complete certainty what Selah originally meant, many interpretations point to the same idea: a moment of emphasis, a deliberate pause where the listener is invited to reflect on what has just been said, and that is where its beauty lies. Selah does not mean rapture, nor is it a secret prophecy hidden in the Psalms, but its repeated pattern of stopping, reflecting, and lifting our attention toward God mirrors a truth seen throughout Scripture. Before God moves in mighty ways, His people are often called to be still, remember His promises, and fix their eyes on Him. Sometimes the pause is part of the preparation. The first word called us to pause and lift our eyes toward God. But what happens when the day of trouble finally arrives? The next Hebrew word gives us a powerful answer. God knows how to protect what belongs to Him. Psalm 27:5 declares, "For in the day of trouble, He will hide me in His shelter." The Hebrew phrase translated day of trouble describes a time of distress, calamity, or great difficulty. It is the language of a moment when danger has arrived and human strength is no longer enough. But the word that deserves our attention is hide, the Hebrew word Tsaphan. It carries the idea of concealing, storing away, or carefully guarding something precious. It is the kind of word used for a treasure that is placed in a secure location and protected. This gives greater depth to David's confidence. He is not merely asking God for temporary relief from a storm. He is expressing trust in a God who carefully watches over and preserves what belongs to Him. Exactly how God's protection unfolds, whether by preserving His people through a trial or delivering them from it, has been understood differently throughout Christian tradition. But the message of the Hebrew word remains clear. In times of calamity, God does not abandon those who are His. He keeps them safe in His care. The third Hebrew word is gash. Psalm 18 describes God responding to David's cry, "Then the earth shook and trembled." Behind these words is the Hebrew verb ga'ash, a term used to describe violent shaking, upheaval, and powerful disturbance. This is not the language of a small tremor. It is the picture of creation being shaken from its normal order. Mountains quaking, the earth trembling, and the natural world reacting to the overwhelming presence and power of its creator. This kind of imagery appears throughout Scripture, especially in passages describing God's judgment and His intervention in history. The prophets frequently portray the day of the Lord with scenes of cosmic disturbance, darkened skies, shaking mountains, and a world responding to the arrival of divine majesty. Jesus himself uses similar apocalyptic imagery in his teachings about the events preceding his return, describing a time when the powers of heaven and earth will be shaken. The Psalms remind us that the God who comforts his people is also the God whose presence causes creation itself to tremble. The next Hebrew word is found in Psalm 2, where God declares, "I have set my king upon my holy hill of Zion." The Hebrew word behind set is Nasak, from the root Nasak. This is a rich Hebrew word with a range of meanings. In different contexts, it can refer to pouring out a drink offering, casting molten metal, or installing a ruler. Here in Psalm 2, the meaning is clear. God himself has established his chosen king in Zion. The power of this declaration lies not only in the word itself, but in the contrast surrounding it. The opening verses of Psalm 2 describe nations raging, kings plotting, and earthly powers attempting to resist God's authority. Yet while human rulers struggle to establish their own kingdoms, God simply declares, "I have installed my king." The true king does not fight to seize his throne or depend on the approval of nations. His authority comes from God himself. And this is the great message of Psalm 2. Every human kingdom is temporary, but the reign of God's appointed king stands above every rebellion and every power that rises against him. The fifth and final Hebrew word in our study takes us to one of the most well-known verses in all of the Psalms. A verse often read as a quiet invitation, but one that carries a far deeper force in its original language. That verse is Psalm 46:10, and it says, "Be still and know that I am God." For many, these words are a source of personal comfort, a gentle invitation to quiet a restless heart. And that application is not wrong. But the Hebrew word behind "be still" is Raphah. It means to let go, release your grip, become slack, or cease striving. It is often used of hands that grow weak and fall, a picture of strength being released and resistance coming to an end. This means the command is not primarily about silence or the absence of noise. It is a call to stop striving and recognize the authority of the one who is in control. And the setting of Psalm 46 is not a quiet place of meditation. The psalm opens with the earth giving way, mountains falling into the sea, and nations in turmoil. It describes God breaking the bow, shattering the spear, and bringing wars to an end across the earth. Then comes the command, "Be still and know that I am God." In that context, the words carry the force of a divine command spoken over the chaos of the world. Release your grip, stop your resistance, recognize who reigns. Every human power, every rebellion, and every force that exalts itself against God will ultimately be brought to silence before the sovereign king. The God who comforts the fearful is also the God before whom every nation must one day surrender. 5 Hebrew words, Selah, Tsaphan, Nasak, and Raphah. None of these words are secret codes hidden within the Psalms, yet each carries a richness and depth that cannot always be fully captured by a single English translation. Together, they reveal a powerful biblical portrait, a God who calls his people to pause and trust him, who carefully guards what belongs to him, whose presence causes creation itself to tremble, who has established his chosen king, and who will ultimately bring every rebellion to an end. The Psalms are more than ancient songs of sorrow, worship, and victory. They are part of the larger story of Scripture, a story moving toward the day when every nation, every ruler, and every heart will stand before the authority of God. So which of these 5 Hebrew words transform the way you understand the Psalms the most? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, Shalom.